Good afternoon, everyone. How's it going? I'm Sean Morris here in the Terrain Studio, just about to get ready here for the Kashyyyk Project. Hopefully, your day is going awesome. I'm going to do a little bit of chatting here at the computer because I want to talk a little bit about direction. But before I do that, I think I'm going to jump to the table, then jump back and do all that good stuff. But if you are just joining me in chat, let me know where you are, where you hail from, who you are, all that good stuff. And if you're on YouTube, just go ahead and leave a comment. If you're not joining me live via Facebook or YouTube, wherever you are, just go ahead and do that. So let's just have a look at what we have been doing. This is day 4 of Kashyyyk week here. It's about a 9 to 10 day week in the Kashyyyk world. So we don't stick with the standard 7-day work week there. So we get more done that way. But let's have a look at the recap and where we've got so far. So day 1, we looked at and finished up a little bit of the hut. Just did some skewer work on there. We have a lot more to go, but we finished up the platform, at least in the build frame. Day 2, we cut a little foam substrate and got the beach laid out. I'm going to talk more about that today. So we're going to actually focus on the table today. So I'll talk about what I have done, where we are, and move forward from there. Yesterday, we were doing a little scratch building. I didn't do any more on that. And in fact, I spent most of the rest of the day finishing up a commission for another gaming company. And then I spent about 3.5 hours constructing a box for one of the pieces that I need to ship. So all that foam work, all those skills come in handy, particularly when it comes to working with foam. So we'll do that. And today what we're going to focus on is we're going to focus on the beach layout. And so we're going to have a little look at that and all things that entails. So I'm just going to do one real quick thing here. I want to just go to my microphone and I'm just going to, there we go, see if I can delay my audio a little bit more, see if I can get a bit more in sync. I think that's a bit closer, but I just noticed that it's a bit out of sync. There was a new update with Ecamm, and so I'm not sure if that is causing that or not, but we'll try there. Let me know how it is, and if it's wonky, then at least you got the audio portion. So yeah, we are going to work a little bit on the beach today. This is the screens that we have here. We're going to, I got the handy cam, the phone's actually hooked up there so I can bring you guys in and show you various other things and what we're working on. So I will flash back and forth between that. This one here is just me jumping in the booth, and that's probably where I'll talk a little bit about concept as well. And that'll be the main cam for today. And then I did want to talk about all the concept art and all the things that I wanted to focus in on that. So because I have been looking a lot at the artwork, and I want to kind of get in there and talk specifically about that. But let me just jump over here to this camera and I'll cut to mic 2. So just let me know if you guys can hear that, make sure everything is good. What we're going to do, first I'm going to get stuff out of the way, but we're going to talk about what we've sort of got finished here. So the table itself is basically got the base layer down. We've put this plastic card here underneath where the water effect's going to go. The resin soaks in, or any liquid's going to soak into that MDF really quickly, and we're trying to avoid that with all costs. So by using the plastic card down there, that actually gives us a nice layer to keep the resin up. We don't have any leak through or penetration in. It goes underneath this a little bit, and today what we're going to do is actually hopefully get in and start carving back some of the beach a little bit. We're going to bring the sculpt mold right down into the white as well, and then that's going to flow up into the pink. So there will be a combination and a nice transition where I think we'll be able to capture any of the resin. So let me just go ahead and set this junk aside. If you're wondering what this all is, it's not an unpacked box of Amazon arrivals or anything like that. It's actually just some weight that I put down on the table itself. So I left it there purposefully so that I can kind of show you guys what it is I use for weights. It's strategically placed I assure you. So as I said before, the painter's tape is really good. I use that to kind of hold down the edges. You can't really do much in the middle, and so what you do is you put your weight down on here, and that's super important. I actually left, excuse me, I'm just gonna grab my trackpad. I actually left that on there for a few days. Basically, I'd say almost two, a day and a half or so, and we're all solidified. I went in here and I did a nice, I repainted the edge in here, and it's got a little bit of tack to it still, even after a few days, but the tree is going to go in there, so I don't really care what that looks like or anything like that. So we can go ahead and just pull this this tape off, just as I'm chit-chatting here. Because you don't want to leave it on too long. It actually will put a little bit of an impression in your foam. So not that we aren't going to put anything over the top of it, but it doesn't need to stay there unnecessarily. So so once we have this all down and secure, then we can start working on the actual rest of the surface. What are we going to stick to this? You can see here it's already starting to peel up some of that. You could, there's different adhesion levels for this painter's tape. So this one's one of the more adhesive ones. That being said, it will stick down if you leave it more than basically 2 days. So it says 5 days, but that's not accurate. And so now that we have the foam down, we're going to start figuring out the concept for what we're going to do with the rest of it. Now, initially, I had a concept idea, but then I got looking at some artwork, which we're going to look at in a second, and I'll show you kind of my source of inspiration. And there's a retaining wall that is in one of the images, and I think I showed that yesterday. And I really like the idea of that because I was trying to figure out a way to have some additional elevation and sort of simulate the beach getting a little bit steeper a bit quicker. I guess I wanted to combat the beach getting steep so quickly. So if you look at Kashyyyk, it has a lot of sand, and the beach does run in quite far into the world. It basically seems like there's patches of vegetation, but a large portion of it seems to be, at least what I've seen, seems to be a lot of sand. And so I want to bring that concept in on one side, but I didn't want to necessarily have that replicated on both sides because I thought it would get a little bit redundant. And the side I wanted to do it on was actually this side because that's where the stepping stones are going to come in. And if we have the sand intrude or protrude in on one side, how was I going to sort of make the transition over here seem like, oh, well, there's a reason why the beach isn't protruding in on this side. And I think that's going to entail putting the retaining wall in here. So I got a couple scraps of foam, and I'm just going to kind of go through the concept of like how high can we make it? How deep can we penetrate in? How much room do we need for the hut? I actually want to put the huts actually one a little bit lower, and then one actually maybe one level of barricade or a retaining wall even higher. So I think in the concept it looks like it's kind of one continuous wall that's one height. I may actually create more of a steeped type look just to create a little bit more variety in that. So we'll look at that and we'll see what that looks like. Of course, before we do any of that, let's get the tree in place because if we're not focused on the positioning of this tree, then we're probably not doing this project right, and we need to make sure we have either a way to connect to the root mass or at least have room to work around it. So this is particularly tight now. It fits in very snugly. There we go. It just has this like suction element. There we go. Okay. So now the tree's in place and you kind of know the concept. So we talked about, maybe what I'll do is I'll bring this down a little bit more. So we're a bit more at beach level. There we go. That should be good. So we talked about where we were going to have the huts positioned, and I'll just grab the bases, and we sort of talked about this concept, right? Like one sort of here and then maybe one offset. So I really still want to do that. But one of the other challenges I had, and this just worked with me on this concept, was how was I going to get from here to the ground. And I talked about kind of building a stairs. I couldn't find any stairs or really scaffolding. The only thing I could find is like these kind of like sort of like hammocky type ramps that kind of join between things. And so I thought, hey, how do I incorporate one of those? And so what I came up with was, if I, just bear with me, if I elevate this one about an inch, gives me a little bit of a nice transition. I still have some beachfront and I can get this up. So if I get that about an inch, and then this one on the back side, let's just say I go, I don't know, maybe 2.5 inches. I'm just using these to stack up to 2.5. Now I have an 1.5 inch retaining wall that's going to go along here. I now have a 2-inch or a 2.5 inch elevation to here, and I still have a decent transition amount to go here, but it's not an extraordinary amount. And so I think I can probably live with that, because what I could do is perhaps build up a little bit of material, or just have a little bit more of a steep ramp. Now, if I go up any higher, let's just say I went to like 3 inches, the retaining wall is going to basically attach to the tree. At that point, I got a little bit of vegetation. It's going to hit the bottom of the. It's going to hit the bottom of this this platform. I'm not ruling that out. And then I have about I'd say probably a good 45 still to attach to here. So that's a possibility as well. The only problem then is if I go an inch here on the beach, let's say this is the retaining wall, we have quite a distance between these two huts. And then when we're talking about hut height, we're talking about something like this. Let's grab the other one. We got this. And so now we got these huts that, in my opinion, end up being too high. So if I were to take this down an inch, live with that, go at about the 2.5 inch mark. Now the huts are pretty close. I can create a transitional step in between, and here's what I was kind of thinking. If I create a transition between this retaining wall and this one, the distance from this to this is fairly similar from this hut to this hut. And now what I can do is start walking up through this, and now I have this one to this one to this one on the back side to this one on the far side. Keeping in mind, then we go high stepping stone, shorter stepping stone, next stepping stone. So now we can actually transition in like this cyclical fashion from like this one to here, over to that side, and then back down to the beach. And so we have this like sort of like round and round we go around this giant tree, and we have now a functional way of achieving that, both from beach to here and then back down again. So if you're thinking about from the skirmish standpoint, there's nothing then that excludes anyone from having to have jump or anything like that to actually move around and through the platforms. So I think I'm fairly sold on that idea. Well, let's jump back to the computer. Let me know what you guys think. Oh, I forgot my mouse. 1 second. Let's have a look at the concept and see how can we incorporate some of those concepts into the build. That's going to be the next trick. All right, so let's jump over here and have a look at some of the artwork. So here's the Kashyyyk world, and you can kind of see the shape I was going for with that tree. Kind of got that like that kick out on the base, and so that sort of lean. I have that definitely incorporated in. We have the stepping stones. I have all mine the same size. I see there is some various sizes, and then all these chimneys and mechanical bits, those are all going to be added. And so I ruled out doing a full canopy on this after I realized how high I was already getting. And so that's the reason that mine's sort of like truncated at the top, pun intended there. It's just sort of truncated there so that we can have the simulated effect of a canopy, but we're not fully into the canopy itself. And so there's not a lot here that we can look at on the beach. You can kind of see that The water sort of comes in, sort of breaks on here, a little bit of rippling. It doesn't look like it's overly aggressive in terms of waves. And you can see the platforms themselves are out into the water and then are at various heights, kind of starting from low in the water to high and then reaching the platforms. So that's something that we're already there. We have that in our concept development. The other side here, if you look to the far, let me bring it onto the screen a bit more. If you look to the far left on this photo, down and like basically come in from the beach on the left, you're going to see the huts and the ones that we're kind of working on. So you can see that platform around the outside, and then it's got that sort of like scooping roof. I didn't put as much of an overhang on mine. I was going to, but then I thought it would interfere with models, so I sort of shortened mine up a little bit. And then we got the really high conical chutes coming up, and you can see that they do reach those platform levels, or in some cases above those. So I think we're fairly fine to include them at the height that we have them. Now, if you look at the rest of the beach, it's just like a garage sale of droid vehicles and clone vehicles here. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to definitely incorporate. I have 4 printed barricades, so we're going to incorporate some of those in, both destroyed and intact. I definitely want to get the tire pattern of those, like I'm not sure if there's the ATET or whatever they're called, those rollers. And I want to definitely do some track work in that. So if you see the mud tutorial I just did, it would be basically similar, but in sand. And so we'll use some sand paste to create the initial effect. And then what we'll do is we'll end up sanding over that to sort of mute the effect down a little bit. But definitely, because sand's not going to residually hold a tire track or a tank track as well, but we'll definitely put those in, and so we'll have a smattering of other bits and pieces littered. But you can kind of see how I was talking about that sand sort of protruding well into the beach, and then you kind of have these patches of vegetation even right up close to the surf. So that's where I'm going to effectively flip this. So the left side here is more in this picture rather, is sort of closer to the beach, and that's where the vegetation starts, versus the other side looks like it has much more protrusion. We're going to sort of like cut that in half and extend our beach in on the left-hand side of our project. And so if we look at the next concept piece here, this is more from the beach looking out. Again, I wanted to show you all those tire tracks, the roller marks, and the various elements that we can tie in. And you can start to see here on the left-hand side, you see how it's got those like sort of like those cut-ins, and it's not necessarily a retaining wall, but you can see that the beach is a little bit more elevated here, and it gets to transition a little bit quicker up. And so I want to find a way to work that in as well, and that's because we're working with a sliding scale here, and we have a little bit of less real estate, obviously, than the full up beach. We want to make sure that we can capture as many elements of this in a smaller space, and so we're going to use that to our advantage. And then this one right here again is just looking from the treetop down, so you can see those stepping stones coming in, you can see those huts certainly there, and then you can see those sort of like elevated vegetation patches that sort of surround the base of the tree, and that's something that I want to make sure that I incorporate in as well. And you can see how much like moss effect is on the lower portion, and so we're going to make sure that we incorporate that into the tree as well. And so we're gonna do some effects that will help replicate that. I want to find one more image. There was one more that I had shared with you folks just a day or so ago, and I want to see if I'm not sure if it's this one or not. Yeah, there it is. Perfect. So if you look here, let me just extend this out as much as possible. If you look here, on the right hand side, you're going to see the huts that we're working on, and you see that retaining wall, that sort of snaked retaining wall there. It looks like it's got little windows in it. It almost looks like it has sort of this like brick type pattern. I'm not 100% sure, but that concept right there, where it's got one slightly higher than the beach and then the next one higher, and it looks like it has a staircase running through it as well. And so I'm going to pretend that that's a staircase, because that is something that I definitely want to work in. So what we're going to do is we're going to map out. Now, obviously, look at the size of the base of the tree here. Look at the size of ours. Let me jump back there. Look at the size of our hut. Again, tree, hut, archery hut. So you can see that if we were to in fact like even attempt to scale this, relatively speaking, I'm pretty sure that the tree would just be 3 feet around. And so we obviously have to work with a little bit, again, like I said, that sliding scale. So we're going to use some creative freedom here and have to work in those retaining walls. Now, the thought being that you can see the curvature of the beach here. And you can also see that those retaining walls sort of follow that curvature and then sort of slink back around. So that's my first and foremost move today, is sort of pencil in or line in how I can make that work. And then what we're going to do after that is we're going to start carving in a little bit of slope into the beach. So let's get over to the table and then let's talk a little bit more concept and then start figuring out how exactly we're going to achieve that. All right, so I got a pencil here, which is going to help us. Let me get these guys out of the way for now. And then let's start figuring out what we're going to do for this. So we don't need the actual huts. We're going to set those aside. And hopefully you guys can hear me okay today. I know I'm moving around a little bit, but I think I think the microphone is positioned well. So if you're hanging out, please let me know where you're from, just because it's a lot more entertaining when I feel like I'm actually talking to somebody. So you can see here that we have this curvature right here. We got, obviously the beach comes in, protrudes in here, comes in here. And I think this curvature right here is going to lend itself really well to putting in that retaining wall. Now, the retaining wall, we talked a day or two ago, 3 days ago, about the transition of this. Now, if we bring the retaining wall in, obviously we're going to come up a little bit higher on the tree, and so a little bit of this lower portion, we probably have to pull this vegetation out, which is perfectly fine. So never feel like you can't go back, and even if it leaves a hole where it's punched in the tree, that's likely going to be covered at this point as well. So what we're going to do is let's just start penciling in some theoretical sort of lines. Now, I like where the tree comes right here, and so if I were to, I'm going to grab one more thing, sorry. Super valuable investment, this bendy ruler. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to replicate the curvature of this loosely. There we go. So that I can sort of incorporate that roughly here. So I think that if we wanted to follow that curvature just as a guideline, let's just pencil that in first. We're obviously not going to keep it exactly, but that would kind of create, and you guys can't even see that, just in the interest of the visual, let me draw these all in. I can take them out later and with colors. All right, so that becomes the line. Just ignore this one here. So that would become a replicatable line. Now, I want to have this hut, I decided, way out on the edge, and I'm going to think about bringing in that retaining wall a bit more rounded. I'm not going to build the whole thing in terms of like the whole curvature here, because I want the hut to be out. I'm going to pick it back up. So let's just change that concept to like here. And let's bring this around and then like bring the wall this way. And we're going to attach to the bottom of the tree there. Okay, so then that allows us to put the hut basically right at the edge of the retaining wall. So now we have this done. Now, the other one, we want to have as close as possible to the platform here, at the same time not extending over this one and at the same time not going underneath there. So it's going to kind of limit our next wall but that's okay. What we'll do is let's have this one a bit tighter here. We're going to come in tight. We'll split the difference between these, and then we'll keep the same sort of curvature here. We'll kind of put a funky little bend in that. Run that into there. Okay. There we go. So now, move those out of the way. So now what we're going to have is that retaining wall come here, the other one run here. We're going to have that sort of effect of having it wrap around here. Basically, it extends and comes and joins off here. But that's going to allow us to not have to build this sort of round piece here. Now what we're going to end up with is something about 2.5 inches high on this end, and we're going to have to live with this new sort of elevation back here. So that is going to be another concept that we're going to have to deal with. How are we going to go from this new height and then sort of transition back down? So what we're going to need to work on is effectively a negative slope in and around this. And so let me just draw those sort of contour lines, and we're going to need to extend down this way and kind of work our way down through here. Which won't be a problem. We'll actually be able to deal with that after. And what I'm going to suggest that I do is actually cut in not necessarily a retaining wall, but cut in one of those sort of like steep transitions, those like ground transitions, those ones that kind of look like a cutaway. And so if we end up at, let's go back to our theory craft here in terms of height. We got our first wall at 1 inch. We're going to do our next one, I think we said we were going to do at 2.5. So these are 1/2 inch blocks in case you're wondering. We're going to go to 2.5 inch. Next one's going to go there. Then from the 2.5, what I'll do is I'll go down 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, and then just use the Sculptamold to bring us down the rest of this. So we'll go 1/2 inch contour, we'll go 1/2 inch retaining cutaway wall, 1/2 inch cutaway wall, earth, and then we'll transition down the last inch down the back side. So let me just rotate this around without having it fall off the table so we can talk a little bit more about that in context. You guys can get to see the tree from a different angle for a second. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so what we talked about there was we're going to come up from the beach, hit this one, go to 2.5 inches. Visually, it's looking like that. And visually, this one's looking like that. And maybe what we'll do, actually, I just had this idea. On those huts, there's actually a secondary door, or like it looks like almost a balcony that extends off the upper conical portion. If I actually just did a pathway from there to there, they're actually parallel. And so I could get away with having that actually go to the top entrance and then skip having to go to the bottom. Perfect, awesome. It's like I planned that out entirely. I did not. But what we're going to do then is go from here, there's the hut, we're going to have the natural transition down 1/2 inch, and we'll use a slope of the Sculptamold, earth wall, and then from that second earth wall, we'll transition down into the bottom of the tree and then bring us right back down. We'll probably extend that out, that sort of gradual transition, maybe out to something like this, out into here, and then we'll have that beach protrude right in and right up into this side. So it'll almost be like there's a secondary beach and a long extension coming in this way, and then this side will be much more sort of like variation of this will heavily be vegetation here, and then the retaining walls themselves will probably mostly sand with sporadic vegetation in and amongst that space. All right, good. I feel pretty good about that. Now, what we're going to do next is actually work on cutting in a little bit of the beach slope. So maybe I'll just leave it like that so you guys can both see what I'm working on, and then I can stay a little bit more out of the camera. All right, let me just, again, move this stuff. You got to move. There's a lot of dry fitting in this process, folks, I will tell you. Concept building is much more practical when you have pieces to move around than it is just drawing it out, because nothing is ever the size that you think it is. So awesome. We got a crowd of 6 people, so that is fantastic. Sorry, I missed a couple things. Johnny, welcome. And then, how modular are you going to try to make this easier for transport later? Seems like it's going to be one huge piece. Yep, you're absolutely correct. It is going to be one giant piece. So this is either going to be crated up and sold, or it'll stay in the studio. And so effectively what we'll do is we'll hand those on the skirmish table, because it's just going to be skirmish size, and then we'll just move that around the studio. It's too cool of a piece, to be honest, to sort of like break down and put on a shelf. It's going to be, conceptually, it's going to be, I think, pretty fantastic when it's done. And I think I want to have it out, and it's just a nice fixture, a nice focal piece to have in the background for whatever we're doing in studio. So hopefully you guys will like it, and the concept will sort of play out as we go here. So 7 people hanging out. Awesome. Good crowd today. Day 4, we're building it up. So any questions, please let me know, and I will do my very best to answer. I'm going to swing around the other side of the table. And full disclaimer, what I'm going to say right now, Skirmish Friday night, absolutely we're going to skirmish on this for sure. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm not even going to recommend at all, but I'm using some blades. These are big Fat Max Stanley blades, but you'll notice that I do not have a handle. I do have the knife, but I'm not going to use the knife, particularly because I want a little bit more control. So if you're going to do this, please be very careful, because I'm actually just going to like shave. I want to get a real feel. You guys know that I like to sort of feel and manipulate out what it is that I'm working on, just to sort of get, just have a better understanding of what it is I'm actually building. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to kind of draw in that is going to be my, this looks like a lot of blue lines. So this is going to be the transition section for the beach. And when I say transition, let me just explain once again. This is the beach, the white. This is the beach here. This is the beach. It's all the beach. This is going to be where the acrylic is going to be poured in large amounts. Larger amounts. This is going to be the area that we're going to carve down to get up to ground level, and then what we're going to do is take Sculptamold and then re-contour that straight out, and we're actually going to contour from the point that we cut and past the point where the white is, and so we're going to have a nice gradual slope into there. Then we're going to bring the sand a little bit farther than that, and then run the sand all the way up, and in some cases clear into the table. And so what we're trying to do right here is not cut down from the white, like all the way from the white. We're not trying to get like a perfect angle here. What we're trying to do is take away as much of this as we feel necessary to get some sort of like undulations and some uniqueness to this. I do want to be very careful though. I don't want to gouge in too far past because I do want to retain some foam. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to just gently, and this is going to be quite messy, I'm going to start, and these are brand new blades, and so they're going to be nice and sharp. And so what I want to do is I want to start hacking away as much of this as possible, and it'll be messy. And I just want to sort of start that contour. Again, I'm not going to try to take too much meat in one pass. When I say meat, I mean foam, just because I do want to have some ability. I want some ability to, I don't want to just cut this at a 45 if I was going to do that, or whatever angle this is, because if I was going to do that, I would have just taken this piece of foam and run it through the foam cutter. What I want to do is I want to cut in some troughs. And so if I'm drawing out this from conceptually, that's the top of the foam. I want to be able to cut in some troughs in the foam and then run those troughs in this way. And so you'll see, like this, for example, I've cut quite a bit out here. I might just cut that and V-shape it in to have a bit more of a trough there. So you'll see sometimes I'll cut a bit deeper. I'll V it up, then it will go back a little bit more. And if I don't follow my line exactly, don't shout out. I realize sometimes I'm going to cut the line away, obviously, and so I'm trying to, in some places, cut as close to the line or up to the line, just so that I have that sort of like artificial line to follow in my future passes here. Obviously, I can't cut all the way in there just yet. So perfect. Keep your questions coming if you have any. I will certainly answer. I'm sure I'm not missing anything over here. Okay. All right. So next pass. I'm going to do one more pass this way, and then I'm going to start coming back the other way. Just because I'm going to get so deep going one way. Again, be very careful if you're ever going to use a knife. And why not use the blade? Like, why not use it like a knife? Well, like a standard. Well, one, I would never be able to get the handle down at this angle, and then two, coming from this way, you'll have a tendency that your outside edge, like the perimeter of your knife blade, is actually the water, and so if you ever penetrate too deep, you're actually going to cut so far down into this way, and we don't want to have any cuts in here, any gouges. We've actually worked really hard to maintain that nice threshold to hold our acrylic in, so the last thing I want to do is sort of compromise that in any way. I did sort of talk about the tree before in the sense that it's nice and convenient to have it removable. If, in theory, we go with this retaining wall idea, which it sounds like I am going to, I am going to have to attach it probably a little bit sooner than I would have anticipated. It's okay though, because it's skirmish. I can get at the tree effectively. Like, there's no real threshold that I can't get at, even if it was separate. Like, I have just a little bit more material in front of me, so it's not a huge concept. The only problem with it is if I wanted to, sometimes I'll tip the tree up and kind of work underneath it. I have to then flip it up on a 3x3 board, which may not be terrible because then I wouldn't have to worry about the tree leaning or lying on a limb. I can actually prop up the MDF, so it might actually be a blessing. Mess here in the studio. It's fine. It's what we do. Should have seen the mess I cleaned up today from the previous project I was working on. Alright, so I'm just going to leave all that on the ground and we'll get that all after. It's got a little bit of static, so let's do a little dance. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is come back the other direction. So I'm going to just swap over the way I'm holding the blade. Just come at it from this way. Yeah, no problem, Tyrone. Thanks for being consistent here, coming to hang out. Sorry, I don't have my headphones in so I can't hear the dings. So you can't really see it, but these little gouge marks here where the blade's kind of skipped, I do definitely want to take those out. I'll take them out primarily by sanding. Which way I was cutting there for a second, so see me switch, that was because I got off track. Alright, so this one here I just need to cut myself a nice wedge in there. So I do want to really start getting these wedges. You'll see me sort of transitioning back and forth from direction. And we can bring this down, so we started at about a 1/2 inch, so we'll bring it down to about 1/4 of an inch here, and then that'll allow us to do another sort of 1/4 inch transition out with the Sculptamold. So if you're wondering kind of like how I'm gonna know how much is how much, or how much is enough, I'm just looking to kind of achieve about a 1/4 inch here on the front. Try not to pry too much, although if I do want to put sort of a deeper gash in, that's going to be how I'm going to achieve it, and then I'm just going to go work it back from the angles. So I'm just sort of cutting in this trough right now, right here. If I end up like chipping or damaging something like beyond repair, Woodland Scenics makes this nice material called foam putty. It's fantastic. It sets up really quick. It's really easy to work with, straight out of the package. You put it down into your little crevices or holes, fill it over, kind of like you're crack filling a damaged wall, and then it hardens over. Another reason that I would or another way I've used it before is I've dinged or notched a corner by accident before I've like got wood on it, and so I've just actually taken the foam putty in and then rebuilt the actual corner of a piece of foam, nice and hard. Looks just like the foam, painted up the base color, and it's good to go. So. What grit sandpaper do you use for insulation foam boards? Various. If I'm looking to take like a whole bunch down, typically I'll start like with if I want to take a lot and really gouge it, and I'm going to show you guys, actually it's good, you're on point. I will use my foam blocks here in a minute to cut some really, I'll sort of accentuate some of these deep striations. So typically about an 80 to 100 to 200, 400, and then if I really need to sand something down like a corner to make it super smooth, I'll switch to an 800 sanding block. So I will be completely in the way here. That's what I intended. Let me just go up. I'll go up and over. There we go. Just got my boom arm out, so it's nice and convenient for me to swap this around for you guys. There. We'll bring it down a little bit more. Just want to. Whoa, that is not what I intended to do. Sorry guys, I had a little bit of a malfunction here. Alright, so pause now for station identification. I just need to... 1 second. I don't know what I'm doing. Alright, I just had my C-stand either break or come apart. So what we're gonna do is, you guys are gonna get motion sickness here. Just bear with me 1 moment, please. I'm precariously dangling this camera, and if I let go of it, it was gonna crash to the floor. Alright, so we're just gonna set you guys. Sorry guys, I don't know what the hell happened here. Just avert your eyes for a second. Okay. Sorry, I have nobody to assist at present, so I will have to do this fully on my own and figure out what just happened. Huh. Okay. Well, that's not good. Sorry, I'm just getting us off the C-stand so you guys can actually see something, so awesome. Okay, well, this is fantastic. So I'll tell you what just happened. My C-stand, my $500 C-stand just broke in the middle of filming, and I'm not 100% sure how that happened, but we're going to switch back to the other camera, and then we'll just fix that. Sorry about that, guys. I don't know how that happened or what happened, but we are in a little bit of a pickle here. Yeah, there we go. Awesome. And that is exactly why I couldn't let go of it. All right, well, we may actually have to cut the stream a little bit short today. Let me just see if I can get this sorted out. Nothing appears to have broken. It just seems to have fallen down. I have not had this, I'm still reading your chats. I have not had this C-stand exceptionally long, like 2 years maybe, but I guess I use it a lot and I do move it around, but wow, I don't know what happened to it. Sorry guys, I'm just attempting to see if I can cause any fixing. Just when we were getting into the meat and potatoes of some build here. Well, I won't shortchange you on the footage, so if I can't get this functional, what I will do is I'll just come back and let me sit down here at least. Yeah, so I'll just do this. So this is the C-stand here. The bolt just came out, but it's not actually sheared off or anything. So I'm just attempting to see if I can get it to move, but I think it's seized up a little bit. So it just looks like it came to the end of its threshold. So I will. Yeah, that's unfortunate. So then the C-stand crashed down and put a nice ding into my Death Star wall. So that's always super fun. It's the perils of working with terrain, I guess. So, all right. So what we're gonna do then is we're fine. We got this. We are somewhat crafty here in the studio. And if I was not in a time rush today, which I am, I would have gladly extended this, but I'm going to give you a few more minutes because I had a few more minutes. I'm just going to swap over to another feed. There we go. All right, we will finish from here. Just focus that in. So what we'll do is there we go. We're just going to switch over to a 4K resolution so that we can have it a bit sharper. So yeah, you believe it, rare outtake. Yeah, that's just a mechanical failure. So there's no way I was going to anticipate that happening. So I'm just hoping that well, all the more reason to sell those Patreon subscriptions. So I assure you, it's a little bit more polished and a little less clown-esque, like whatever that was. But anyway, we're back at it for a few more minutes. I'm on pickup duty today, so I said, of course, that's the day it needs to happen. The day I can't just extend the footage for you guys, but I will make it up. I will do an extra 20 minutes tomorrow, and likely get on Amazon tonight and see about another C-stand. So if I can't get that one fixed, so I hope I can, because it's expensive and I really like that one. And up until this point, it's always been super reliable. Kind of scared me there at first. I didn't know what was happening when that came completely off in my hands. Alright, so what we're going to do is just cut these last few. Again, we're just getting down to that quarter inch area. Just running the blade through, putting those nice deep troughs in wherever you want them. And they don't all have to be like super uniform either. Like it doesn't have to be like just a single trough into the right into the beach. Like square can kind of come from an angle or what have you. So you can kind of see that line that we basically had drawn in there. Just cutting it down anywhere it's like a bit high, and I come in and this is very crude, right? So these are all like very angular in shape, and what we're going to have is a nice contour when we get the sculpta mold in. So, so if you're kind of concerned around, there's going to be the sand's going to look very like V-shaped. It totally isn't. We will re-smooth that transition and bring that right into the beach. You can see I'm just sort of working. This is a multi-cut trough. Pry some of that up. Work it in from all different angles until I find that. Sort of creating a pocket here. And get a lot of flex in the blade as well, which is quite nice because I can really sort of work in that gradual cut. Just going back as I kind of see and get a feel for the angle. Nice and low. All right. We got for a few more minutes here. Cut a nice low trough here. about the thickness I want. So I'm going to come back in and do one more pass on at least that end down there. Cutting in those V's. Good. What mess we got going on? You guys can't really see the ground, but well, you probably did see the ground when my camera was all flipping all over the place. I'm sure it was entertaining. I have to put a annotation on here that says like, I might just go actually edit that piece out and just re-upload this video so you guys don't have to see you'll see it live. You'll see it live. You got to see it first. Hopefully it wasn't too catastrophic. Just cutting a really deep wedge here. There we go, nice. We'll cut another one right beside it. Transition that out. There we go. Getting a nice little beach contour in here. Got about 4 to 5 inches in some sections where it's transitioned. We'll just finish up this pass here, and then we'll call that video finished, and then we'll pick up some more work tomorrow. Tomorrow, I think what I'll do, I'll maybe start theory crafting in those retaining walls and just start getting some of those kind of laid in terms of how they might look. In here. This will be right to the edge, and this will be where the beach is gonna. Kind of slope that off that way. Really have the beach protruding in here. Okay, well there we have that. I don't have my other camera to show you at this moment. It's unplugged, but I will give you move this rig around here, give you a little bit of a sense of how long have I been making terrain, like 15 years or so. So a while. So I'm just gonna let you guys see the mess that I made there. There we go. Oh. Well, 8 thumbs up, that's good. So clearly the camera fail wasn't the end of the world. So there. And so what I'm gonna do, because we still have one more camera source. And I'll finish off here. Let me just fire up the wireless camera. We'll get the NDI connection going. And there we go. Perfect. All right, so there we go. So shaky cam, but I'm actually holding this one. So I am tethered just because I guess I don't need to be. I can just go wirelessly. But all right, so yeah, so that's our mess. And then here you can see, or hopefully you can see, the indentations, and that's kind of our contour. So you can see here, sort of cut there. We're not quite as low as we want to be. We want to be more like this distance here, and so we got a bit more work to do as we come through here. So, hey Bernard, no problem. Yeah, it's yeah, you're fine. That's cool. If you want any additional help, or if the video is not quite showing you what you were looking for on that, Bernard, just let me know, and I will respond on Patreon and give you anything. If we need to connect even, we can do that as well. So yeah, so there you go, folks. You can kind of see, let me just bring you right down to beach level, if you will. And so we have not quite come down to the white, which is important. We don't need to. And then we can start to cut in that slope. So we're gonna go down a bit more here. And then because what we want to do is, if we went down all the way to the white and we did the sculpt mold, effectively all we're going to do now is we're going to lose a lot of beach unnecessarily, or a lot of the water area, and then we're just going to be sloping back over, and we're going to run the risk of ending up higher than our substrate. What we actually want to do is have the sculpt mold go quite thin, and then we're okay to build up a little bit here because we'll sculpt mold probably most of this. But then we'll have a little bit more of a transition. We can get that gradual transition as opposed to that real hard, this is what we started with, right? So as opposed to that real hard transition from here to here, which ends up being like a 45, now we have this much more gradual slope. And not only that, we have those undulations put in there as well. So where we sort of trough down and cut in and what have you. So yeah, so that is what we got going on for that. I'm just going to walk back over to my computer here for a second so I can finish off with you guys. There we go. And let me grab this. There we go. Yeah, so that is where we got today. So my apologies for the small camera issue there. Tyrone, I was 6 when you started. Fair enough. That puts me in the old category. But nonetheless, that's fine. That's cool. You can start at any point, and I'm sure there'll be lots of people building as we go into the future here, myself included. So yeah, so I'm just going to leave that. I'm going to go do the whole dad thing. I'll get cleaned up. We'll come back. I'll probably have most of that finished. If I don't, that's fine. Then we'll just pick up with that. I am going to do a C-stand repair tonight as well. And I will join you guys tomorrow, Kashyyyk Day 5 tomorrow. And as always, thanks for watching, and see you guys later. I will just put up this real quick plug. If you're not already, go check out www.patreon.com/TheTerrainStudio. You can get access. It's a $2, $5, or $15 monthly subscription, and you can get access to every video, past, present, and future, for $5 a month. Really appreciate that. New funds going to support my C-stand. So I will see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you later. Cheers.